let me actually really just start off, man. Like, this is really an amazing opportunity to speak with you today. Like, as a diehard music fan, uh,
Mm.
somebody who has really devoted their lives. Like I work in media, obviously, but it has been like it's been a journey, man, and it's like something that I've really longed to do, and I still work a regular job and all of that stuff, but I mean I went to school for journalism and everything, and I follow behind people like you who obviously are out here making music and music,
Dope.
and I pair you with a lot of my favorites like the Eric Benets and the Maxwell
Mm.
and the people like Faith Evans. And I go kind of go back to my college days of when I was really getting into R&B and that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
remember you, which we'll talk a little bit about the fact that you've been here for all this time and you've been independent. And I mean, you've been here longer than that. But
Yeah.
I think that you've done so much for this industry and just for entertainment in general, man. And I personally am like tremendously grateful to you for everything
Oh,
you do. And it's some things that you're working on too that you do that I'll speak on too, because I'm really all about the culture and kind of like how it used to be.
mm.
When you look at artists and kind of the artist development phase and just a lot of the stuff that you used to see back in the day, like A&R and the street teams and all of that stuff that you don't get any more of that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I appreciate you, man. Like all of that,
Man.
just to say thank
Yeah.
you.
Nah, thank you, man. I appreciate that. You look, we always hope that we're leaving it better off than how it was when we got here, and that's the goal. So, man, for you saying that, I take that, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Um, you've built a career that it is really reveled by many of the greatest people out there. Like I feel like you've done so much even in this last 20 years, like as an independent artist, that
Mm.
a lot of major artists they really don't get the opportunity to do. And
Yeah.
to me, you've been wildly successful with everything that you've been doing. So your upcoming album, like it obviously represents your stability, but most importantly, the fact that you've been an independent artist for all of this time. Like, where does that sit in your mind to know that you've been here all this time and you've been surviving and through everything that's going on?
Yeah. I mean, I think I was so focused, honestly, on surviving. I didn't really take it in much, and I think as we got close to the 20th year, which was this year, it was probably the first time I really like, wow, like this really worked out. You know what I mean? It really worked out. And mind you, I think the song lessons really applies to so much of it because for me, all the failed record deals, all the other situations that didn't really work out, watching other people really get signed and surpass your dreams and stuff like that. I can't say that all of it was always easy, but I think I'm where I'm supposed to be at, and I think there's a blessing in it. One, because when I really think about what pleases me as a writer, first and foremost, right? Like I pride myself on being a songwriter, and I feel like if I was signed to Sony Records or whatever, I could write the songs to keep myself relevant, but it wouldn't be what's on my heart. Like, the songs you have to write in order to appease that whole marketing building and the A&Rs and the president and everything else is different. And for me, I'm able to make a living sitting down and asking myself, where's my spirit today?
Right.
What caught my attention? If I want to write a song about a refrigerator today, I can write a song about it, right? You know what I mean? Not to say that just gonna be I want to make a brilliant song about a refrigerator. Like, yo, he wrote that about a refrigerator? That's so cool. No pun intended. But you know what I mean? It's like, so I've made a career off of being able to art- artistically make a living off of what moves me truly.
Right.
No. And if it didn't move me, you don't hear it.
Yeah, I think that's good, and to be honest, that really speaks to a lot of why I really work the way that I work, even as a
Yeah.
journalist. Like with me working independently and really just writing for my own publication, as opposed to writing for the Vibes or the Sources or
Right.
the other magazines out there. I feel like doing that, I can do everything that I want. So I mean, I still go out and I cover you know, whether it's the BET Awards or the Soul Train Awards or that stuff. But I can talk to who I want to talk to, ask them what I want to ask them, and
Yeah.
I don't have to go into all of the craziness that, you know, the major, you know, the conglomerates will want you to really talk about for the radio
Right.
and that sort of thing.
It
So
comes down to the opportunity for you to define what success means for you and unapologetically do that. And I think I'm an example of that wholeheartedly. Like, you know, I see what I want to chase after and I'm chasing after it. And other stuff is like, okay, that's cool, but I don't necessarily need that stuff, you know.
do you feel like you had a certain formula as far as you being independent?
Well, you know, the industry changes so much that, you know, what worked on the last album won't work on this album. You learn that you have to evolve and you have to pay attention, and some things are not going to work and some things will. I think if there's a system, it's consistency. You know, it's like just being willing to know that some things aren't going to work, but you got to complete all of it. Every idea has to be executed. Everything that you want to write about, you got to write it, because stopping midway doesn't work for anything. Like, you know what I mean? You won't know what worked or what didn't work. So, you know, I always tell everybody, you know, these 20 years, it's not because we got everything right. It's because we completed everything we tried. And what's remembered is what worked. Right. You know, we're not going to sit in this interview and go like, let's talk about all the songs that failed. All right, so this song was crickets, and you know, no, you're like, yo, this song really moved me. Oh wow, there was 100 songs before that song, but guess what? It's about that song. So you gotta do that. Formula for me is just really trying to stay creative. I'm always trying to write and always trying to keep my perspective open and healthy about finding that new thing to write about, the new thing that moves me. And the creativity usually tells me when a new album is coming or whatever. And then from there you look up and you go, all right, where's the world? How do you keep the conversation going? How do you get everybody's attention or hold on to their attention? And that changes. That's the part that's always different. But outside of that, you know, I'm trying to get goosebumps. You know, the pen moves till the goosebumps come. We in the studio till it goes, oh, that's crazy. And sometimes you might be so exhausted you might miss it that night. And you be like, all right, I just finished the idea. And then the next morning you eat a bowl of cereal and you press play. You be like, oh my God, that's what we did. Like, yeah. You know, it's like that's what it's all about. That's the consistency. Outside of that, you keep working till that happens. You know. Till that happens, and trying to keep your heart open and honest enough to be able to feel it, to not getting so much into the culture and routine of it that you become numb to the result. You know what I mean? So that's probably the main thing.
So let's talk lessons, man. First of all, bravo to you just on the overall creative process as well. Like, I think the song is amazing. I think it touches it touches in a way that people can really put themselves in place of the lyrics, and they can really relate it to their lives and the things that's going on. I think that we all, you know, in the different things that we do every day, obviously we're learning many lessons and whatnot. So I think the song is really good. Even as far as the remix, I think it's dope that you have obviously Anthony Hamilton, you got Kevin Ross, who I think really, really shined on this song. Like
he did. Like, good Lord.
I feel, and all three of them, Raheem Devine too, like I'm a huge fan of him. So like, obviously I think that everybody did like really majorly well on this track. Yeah. I just feel like Kevin Ross really, really stood out on there though.
Well, you know, Kevin's the new wave of where music is going. He's the young Jedi. Realistically, he's the hungriest out of all of us right now, and he's coming with new ideas and stuff. And you know, it's funny as I sorry to bring this to sports. We had a conversation about. I told somebody the other day, I said, you know, these young kids that's coming in the NBA right now, they studied LeBron James. They got video of him in high school. They didn't study every riff, every step, everything he's done. He hasn't studied them. There's no tape on them. Right, so they're evolving. They should be eventually better than LeBron, right? And guess what? We have 20 years of music that the young Jedis can study and be inspired by.
Right.
And I would expect them to have something new and a breath of fresh air and approach to what we're doing, and that's why we had him on it because you know he came and he showed up and showed out. And guess what? He's a dope artist in general. His pen is crazy, his voice is crazy, and yeah, man, it was when I heard the verse that he sent me, I was like, yeah, this is this is the end. We're gonna put that. We're gonna put that's gonna be the last verse on this thing. You know, we will not follow that. We're gonna let him be Busta Rhymes on this joint. You know, and he knocked it apart, rightfully so. And everyone like, you know, Anthony and Raheem, man, listen, the legacy that these guys have created, you know, they did exactly what they were supposed to do, you know, and it's amazing. I appreciate it because they validated the song even more. And then they also brought a different perspective. When you really listen to the lyrics, that even Raheem went a different direction than Anthony. Both said something. I remember when I looked at the lyric video and I was like, oh, they said that. I didn't realize they painted this kind of picture. Right. It's like, man, it's such a, they just dope. I'm big fans of their pens in general. I always have been, and just honored to really have that perception added to my song, you know, because I'm really appreciative.
I think all of you are like amazing writers. So all of you have that ability to paint a picture that, you know, somebody can kind of see in their minds as they're listening to the song. So totally, that's one of the big things that really stands out with it too. And like everybody on there is like A-list. So yeah, I think it's perfect. And you guys all fit like very well together. Like it's not forced or anything.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we had a good time. We had a good time. And they all good brothers at the end of the day. Yeah. And I think the fellowship of it in general, hopefully people hold on to that as well. You know, I think it's just a special moment, man. I really, like I said, I'm really appreciative of them for jumping on it.
Now you opened it up with God has a funny way of showing you lessons. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned throughout your career and, you know, in your life?
There's a lesson in failure if you can remove the pity out of it after a while. Like, you're human, so you have the right to have some pity, have some hurt, right? But I'm at a point in my life now when things don't work, I sit up. I'm going, oh, okay, all right, because there's something to learn out of it. You know, it's not always something to learn out of success. And the Grammy goes to, what's to learn? It's like, oh, we're just partying. Right. Lose the Grammy. You're sitting there like, all right, okay, say that, okay, next time, you know. He's like, so I think with every heartache, you know, it's really the song. It's like he got to put a brick wall in front of you sometimes, you know. And it's funny. I think the song, I didn't realize it till recently. I write these like little, they're not even poems, it's just like little sayings, like little, I call it, dare I say, clever, where I wrote this thing saying, don't forget that God's a comedian and sometimes he's going to trip you up just for the hell of it. You know, it's like the pun of like hell, and, you know, but it's real. Sometimes he is going to trip you up, but guess what? Sometimes he's going to trip you up so you don't go to that job interview. Sometimes he's going to trip you up so you don't call that person back, you know, or something like that. So, you know, we're stubborn. Yeah. And I ran into a lot of brick walls in my life, and I had to learn it. Like, those brick walls were for a reason. Once I stood up and picked my teeth up off the ground, and, you know, stuff like that, I was like, I learned from it. I healed from it. I got stronger from it. And mind you, I can't speak for like getting cancer or anything of that nature, or, you know, losing someone to COVID. That's a much more serious aspect. But, you know, for the brick walls that we ran into, the letdowns we might have had in high school, anything, if you kind of take a minute to think of the purpose of the failure, the purpose of the setback. I always tell somebody, it's interesting with this song. They gave me the track. They sent me the track on, like, let's say a Monday, right? And then immediately I was like, yo, this track is crazy. I want it. And they were like, well, you know, my bad. We sent it to a few other artists before we sent it to you, just in all transparency. And I was like, let me check and see what they doing. And I was like, yeah, no problem. And then like 4 days later was when Anakin Invader, the producer of the track, called me and said, yo, nobody's using it. Nobody's calling us back. Rock out. And it happened to be that was probably midnight when it hit me. I went in the studio about an hour later at 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was the morning of my anniversary. Okay. So the crazy thing, when you think of it, that when they first sent me the track, and I was like, yo, I love it, I want it, I went downstairs and wrote something different. I promise you, that day I probably wrote about feet or something. You know what I mean? Just like whatever. I might have wrote about a refrigerator or whatever's on my mind that day. Right. But what happens was, you know, they had bigger artists that they had sent it to, and they want to see if the bigger artist was going to take it, and they didn't take it. So by the time they called me, it's 4 days later, and the day I was supposed to write it was the day they called. And you got to trust that sometimes. Sometimes the setback is really the blessing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the better song was written because for some reason it was my anniversary, and I think it just kind of had me in my feelings a little bit of just kind of thinking of life, and that's what showed up on the song. So when I say God's a comedian, God's a funny way of showing you lessons. Even that's funny. Like, you know, like if my ego's in the way, bump them bigger artists. Well, forget it. I ain't gonna write it. You keep that track. Nah, oh, cool. Let me know.
Right.
Let me know. And then when it was time for me to write it, it was there. And that's the reason why we talking right now. You know, it's like, so we sometimes gotta get out the way of ourselves and just let it show up. You know, let it show up.
Now, as far as album, when are we looking at your album dropping? Or I thought I saw January. Or
yeah, it's gonna be January, like top of the year sometime. Yeah, I mean, we don't have a set date right now, and I think more of it is just because I think it's very important to make sure I have as much content and much marketing behind it as possible to complement all the stuff that we've been doing up to this point. We've used everything on lessons, and now we're in our building phase right now to make sure that, you know, the album that's going to support it has equal amount of attention as well. So it'll be the top of the year. I don't know if it'll be January 1st, but it might be January 10th, 20th, whatever. But it'll be top of the year.
Okay. I'm definitely looking forward to that, man. But I also, before we go, I wanted to kind of connect this to, you know, to your other profession, which would be you teaching at Berkeley. Like,
yes.
How did you get into teaching?
Well, you know, I do workshops all the time in my travel.
Okay.
I used to be really beat up vocally, and I had vocal cord surgery about 7-8 years ago, and then even with that, I had a bad reflux problem that I got taken care of. I'm on reflux medicine and other stuff like that. I got a better way of just taking better care of my life.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that it gave me was a new strength. I could talk more, I could sing more, I could come off the road and go right in the studio. So whenever I could go into a city and speak to a school or do a workshop before a concert or after a concert, I was always down to do it. And then at the same time, I was always like just mentoring artists. Like, you know, after a show, if a drummer or a songwriter or artist wanted to kind of pick my brain or whatever, feel free. Let's sit down. Let's go get some coffee. Let's sit down and chop it up. And it just so happened there was a young lady named Erin who I used to mentor back in New York, who was teaching at Berkeley, and a job opened up, and she said, "You got to interview Eric Roberson." And just so it was so out of the blue. I was really at home, and I got the phone call, and he said, "Would you be interested in teaching at Berkeley?" And I was like, "In Boston?" I was like, "I'm in Jersey." I was like, "Nah, nah, like really, you know." And the first, I turned down the job twice. Like at least what they offered me 2 times, and then they said, "Can you come teach 1 day a week, just 1 day?" I was like, "Well, let me talk to my family. Let me kind of figure it out." So, you know, before the pandemic, I was flying up there just once a week and teach all day, and then fly home, and then the coming weekend I'll fly off to do whatever shows I need to do. It was great. It worked out. And then for the pandemic, I've been teaching virtually, with some plans of returning back to the campus, you know, when it makes sense. But it's been a great. I mean, I think even a lot of stuff that you see me applying marketing wise, and just deciding to dive back into my pen, because I can't sew into a student and tell them what I feel they need to do, and they see me not applying it.
I think, you know, that's like that to me, that's like one of the biggest ways, you know, to be able to show that you're giving back is to be teaching.
Yes.
To be teaching the craft.
And I teach a business class, and it's great because if we're talking publishing deals, I go, well, let me show you my publishing deal. You know what I mean? Let me show you my marketing plan. Let me show you, you know, if we're going for sync, let me show you how we market it to sync. You know, oh, you want to go to radio? Let me show you how my radio campaign, like, you know, it's another thing to really show that we're boots on the ground. And I think that it was a little bit added motivation to like really, and once again, if something doesn't work, guess what? We're gonna have a class about it. All right, let me show you the part that didn't work. We tried this, and we lost this much money from this part, and it didn't work. But you got to shoot your shot and things of that nature. So, you know, I think it's really part of my give back, which I think is always important. It's that part of phase of my life, and I love to teach because really, I think it was my pastor that said, they said you got to be a teacher and a student at the same time. So never am I walking in class as just a teacher.
Right.
I'm there to soak up and learn from them just as much as they're there to learn from me. You know what I mean? So it's been a blessing. I love it. I love it. And it's no pun intended that I've been teaching for the last three something years, and I write a song called Lessons. It's just weird. No pun intended.
Lastly, I wanted you to kind of touch or kind of touch on the program you have, or I think it's called The Process, where you kind of allow people to sit down and listen to the music.
Yeah, it's something we've been doing for the last 500 years. 500 years, good Lord, 5 years. 500 years back. Moses started the program, and about 5 years ago we started it, where it was just like, let me just show you the process of what I'm doing, like just show you everything, because I'm very much process over product. I'm very much diving into like, how connected can I be in this moment to what I'm doing right now, like in this conversation even, you know? And it started as a private Facebook page, and then it moved on to a Patreon page where people just follow me in the studio. Sometimes I'll stream the session, or just every idea I have, you get a copy of it as fast as I do it. And it's great because it's now grown into, now they pretty much A&R the albums. You know, this album that we're doing right now, the songs that did not move them, like Lessons moved them and other stuff, it didn't make the record.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? So they kind of tell me what works. That's the blessing. For me, what the blessing is I get a chance to know what works before. Yeah. There's plenty of times we put an album out, we're like, number 6 is going to kill. And then number 6 misses. Like, oh, I didn't know. I get a chance to know right away. Like, I write something tonight. The same way with Lessons. I posted it at 4:00 in the morning. When I woke up, that was the proof that it was felt by just how 3 days later it was still talking about it. So if you're interested, and once again, it's an open thing. We do a weekly podcast every Wednesday. We did it last night called Checking In with Eric. And I'm writing a book right now that comes out next month based off of Lessons. Okay. They're part of the book. I mean, they're part of the process of everything I'm doing. So anyone interested in joining and witnessing and just seeing how it comes together, go to jointheprocess.com. The album is already there. The album's already done. You know, it comes out in January. But if you want to listen to the album right now, all you have to do is go to jointheprocess.com.
I'm joining myself, man. I appreciate, having the opportunity to do that. And I was going to say the same thing you said. You kind of get that built-in A&R process that really is not there anymore.
It's not there anymore. Yeah.
It's funny because, like, growing up, I always wanted to work in A&R. And it's like we are in a time where it really doesn't exist anymore.
No, not one bit. They're like, no, A&R yourself, vocally produce yourself, vocally develop yourself, every aspect by yourself, you know, and then, but yeah, we're trying to do our part, man, you know, and it is, like I said, it's a fun process, and I'm learning constantly from it. And I think people get a lot from it as well. And hopefully also it dedicates people to dedicate into their process, like more, like how stronger can I get into that and connecting. And for me, like I said, I got 3 boys here, and my wife. So how much can I dedicate the process or product, even with my kids, even with my wife? You know, it goes beyond just songwriting. And I think that's one of the things that group has shown for me. It's been a fun time. And their family, like before the pandemic, we would have process meet and greets, whatever city, like the Chicago process members would come to the sound check and just watch. You know, I remember we did a meet and greet with the process before in Atlantic City. And I think like maybe the bass player like missed his flight or something like that. You know what I mean? So they watched us talking before the show of like, all right, so you play keyboard, bass, do this song, this whatever. And then luckily he showed up in time. I think it was a bass player, not throw him under the bus, amen. But they watch it like, hey, I'm willing to show everything, like show the good and the bad.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a fun thing.
All right, man. Any type of final thoughts, final comments, anything you really want to get out there?
Nah, everything you covered it. Outside of, man, just I appreciate the love and support for the song Lessons, and just stay tuned. We got much more coming out in the next 365 days.
Okay, and website, social media, you want to plug that?
The website is ericrobersonmusic.com. And of course, you can find all the socials there. Even the jointheprocess.com is on there. But I also say Instagram. I'm real active on Instagram. So Erro44, ERRO44 is on Instagram. But yeah, go to ericrobersonmusic.com and all the merch there, all the tour dates, everything is anything you need to find, you know, is on that website.
All right, man. I appreciate you so much, man. Like I love this entertainment and music thing, and
Man, thank you.
I love it. So I appreciate you for all that you're doing, man. Just keep it up. I'm looking for the album, but I'm joining Trust the Process myself.
Yeah, come check us out, man. I think you'll enjoy it. Now, where are you based out of?
I'm in Cleveland.
Cleveland. Okay, yeah. I love Cleveland. We come there all the time. So we talk about coming in top of the year. So hopefully, right when the album drops, we'll be there.
I'll be looking for you, man. Hopefully, we can get you on the show. You know, when you're actually here, we can actually bring you into the studio and get you on the show.
That'll be great. Let's make it happen.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
All right, brother. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for your time.